we begin with seam ripping the dome of the hat from the rim of the hat. And in hindsight, I did seam rip that a little bit too high. I think I would have liked a lower base. For a Bergere, I don't think the dome of the cap comes up quite as high as I made it. I went up maybe 2.5, 3 inches. And it could have been shorter. Once I got the top off, I did tack it in place with a couple stitches so that it wouldn't continue to spread. Not that there was any real risk of it because that was sewn together with fishing line and it was not going anywhere. But for a neater finish, I did tack it down in place. The thread that I used was a glazed quilting cotton. That done, I went ahead and measured how big the top of the opening was on the Bergere itself to the top of the dome, and that's where I marked it with pins, and that's where I decided to seam rip it for the top of the hat. And like on the rim of the hat, I went ahead and tucked in the excess and tacked that down with a few stitches of quilting cotton thread. Also, we went ahead and ironed it flat with a steam iron that I have. And though there might have been concern that the fishing line that was holding together the hat would melt, it didn't actually because I don't think the iron was hot enough, but steaming it held it in place very, very well, and so far it hasn't budged. I then reattached it by just anchoring 4 pins on each north, east, west, and south anchor on the top of the hat so that I could go ahead and stitch it back on, just with some very rough and not very pretty whip stitches. In the future, if I did this again, I would probably go ahead and use the curved needle for this process. I think it would probably give me neater stitches than this. I did use doubled up thread as well, just for extra strength and stability. I didn't want anything going anywhere. And then for the ties to hold the hat in place, I just had some yellow poly ribbon that I used. I just measured it out and cut out a length and tacked it to the hat. Though I think if I do it again, these will be made a little bit longer than I did here, just so I could have some tails on the bow. And with both ribbons on, we try it on for size. It's very cute. I approve. So I decided to do the same little cute puffs that Enchanted Rose Costumes did on her Bergere, because they were absolutely adorable. And I went ahead and snipped the corners of the ribbon too, just so that they wouldn't fray. Making the puffs is very, very, very easy. You basically, every couple inches or so, you will do a few running stitches through the width of the ribbon, pull it taut to gather them, wrap it around a couple times, and then tie it off. And you just do that for the whole length of the band. Alright, so you want to cover the tying off of the poofs, and I just do so with little blue flowers, as you can see there. And then we move on to decorating. And the focal point of this hat was that big peachy rose, so I wanted that to definitely be side center and accented with the rose leaves that came along with it. These are just stock flowers that I bought from Michael's. In the future, I'll probably go for something maybe a little bit nicer, at least for the focal point of the flowers, just because I feel really bad about buying those. And all of the flowers are just tacked on with the same thread as always, and it took a bit of finagling to get this done because it likes to tangle up in everything. But for the stems, I just tacked around the stems themselves, and for the flowers, I kind of stitched it in through the heart of the flower itself a few times before drawing it onto the hat. As pictured, I suppose. Don't know how to describe that. And decorating is decorating. You really just kind of put them on the way you think is prettiest and to match whatever vision you might have for the end product. And in my case, I wanted a lot of country flowers, I guess. Nothing really elegant, no feathers. Just some flowers. Something very, very summery and very springy. Oh, and in case you're curious, the reason this is not getting hot glued is because I don't own a hot glue gun and I can't be bothered to buy one. I do, however, own plenty of thread and plenty of needles, so that is why they were sewn on as opposed to hot glue. Hot glue would be faster, but yeah, no. I like to snip off the heads of the flowers from the stems, mostly to cover up any kind of messiness you might see in between the bigger flowers. Just kind of tucking them into those crevices and tucking them into place goes a long way in making it look fuller and just a little bit more vibrant. And I did the same thing with the little blue flowers. I just kind of tucked them into any kind of little vacant spots, which could have used a little bit of extra floof. And that's it with the just bouquet flowers. And then I got this one little piece that's all one, and I didn't really want to break it up because it was very pretty. So I just kind of tucked him in and around the hat and just tacked him in place. And that just added a little bit more fullness and visual interest to the hat that I really liked. And we give it a quick try on, and it's so pretty. Pro tip, if you're gonna get a Bergere, get a bonnet. They don't fit right without a bonnet, so if you're gonna make a Bergere, make a bonnet.